Hey guys, and welcome to Quality Shot. I'm really pleased to be joined by head coach of Cheam LTC. Amit, how you doing, mate?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. We were just discussing. There's a lot of sport going on, so and the weather's pretty good here, but unfortunately not able to go out and do anything. But at least watching sport is the second best, I guess. With Australian Open now pretty much around the corner, starting next week, it's exciting because the ATP Cup was on, but it got postponed because I think there's someone actually in the hotel. It was one of the hotel staff contracted COVID, which is pretty disappointing. Obviously, that's happened, but I think it's probably. I was wondering how they got it, but I'm assuming it might be deliveries coming in, etc. And you never know. So I think they've now just stopped that, and they're having to test everyone. But the good news is that the Australian Open have said that it's still going to go ahead on Monday, and the draw's out as well. So there's some interesting. There are some interesting matchups and some notable omissions as well because of injury and also people just not coming to the event. So I guess let's maybe start with the omissions, and maybe if you're surprised. So the biggest one I think for me is Roger Federer, who obviously is not going to be playing. I think I'd I've read a few things about whether I think he's got he's got that knee injury that he's been persisting for quite some time, and it hasn't been 100%. But also, I know he did say that because of the restrictions, his family wouldn't be able to be there. He doesn't particularly want to be that long, and I just think I don't know what you think on it, but to me, it's a bit like he's done everything. He can really do what he wants. He can play whatever tournaments he wants to at this point. At this point, he's not playing, but I think it's probably the right call.
Yeah, I think if he was physically ready and the circumstances were different, I think it's a combination of the two. The fact that quarantining, but that alone, maybe had he been 100%, I think he might have given it a shot. But I think the combination of two have certainly said no. I'm gonna wait until I'm more or less fully fit because it's going to be tight. He was always saying being fit for the Australian Open this year will be tight. So I think he's giving himself the best possible chance because I'm a massive Federer fan. So he wants to give it another year of good crack, and he doesn't want to get injured again. He can't afford to have some more setbacks. So I think the latest statement he made was that he wanted to go to something more low key initially to get some match play back. But he's always a very honest competitor, honest player, honest competitor, and he says it how he thinks. And so yeah, it's sad. I'm disappointed he's not playing, from a personal point of view, but I think it's probably the right decision because there's going to be a lot of uncertainty, for the Australian Open still, even going forwards. Hopefully, fingers crossed, it'll go ahead, but if there's any more setbacks, if there's any more, the Australian media are already onto the organisers and being quite critical of some tennis players who have criticised the event or the quarantining. But I think it's a new norm. But the great thing is there's going to be some spectators, and fingers crossed this goes ahead. So going to miss Roger Federer, so that's a big thing, big loss. But it's still going to be a great tournament.
Yeah, 100%. The other kind of notable omissions, Andy Murray, because he contracted COVID and then they just haven't managed to make it work, which is a little bit disappointing. But I don't think he himself would have known that he's probably not got a chance of winning it, but it would have been good for him to get some, quality match practice in there and maybe progress into a few rounds. John Isner is another one, just because of the protocol, didn't want to travel. Songa, who is still around, actually. He's been around for a very long time. He's recovering from injury, and there's a few others like Martin Del Potro, who is in and out of he's the classic in and out of the doctors, isn't he? He's the sick note constantly, which is really unfortunate because he's so talented. And another Briton, Kyle Edmund, who's missing it due to a knee injury, which is a little bit I would say disappointing for him because he started, I think, last year to look a little bit more. For me, it wasn't a huge breakout year, but he was starting, I think, for me to progress better. So, that was a bit disappointing. But actually, the biggest one for me is and it's a bit of a left field one, is Sebastian Korda. So he's actually chosen not to play the Australian Open because he wants to play ATP Challenger events instead. So he won a Delray Beach Open. He's won, I've forgotten the name of it, but he won another Challenger now. I think it was only a few days ago. What do you think about that as a young player? He's just said, well, actually, I don't think I'll play.
Yeah, I didn't know, actually. I didn't know about that, but
Yeah.
I'm surprised. I'm surprised. I mean, the only thing about, so it's the opposite scale for Roger. Roger's not got many more years left, and Sebastian's got many years left. And perhaps again, he felt with the quarantining and the whole sort of, you know, uncertainty or just the difficulty in running this, or to going to Australia, maybe that was the that affected his decision. But I think, yeah, I'm surprised about that. But then also, maybe felt it more valuable to pick up points in locally. There's lots of tournaments locally, you know, and you know, again, when things are more normalized, he'll be able to return to the tour properly. But I don't know why. I don't know his reasons why he hasn't.
I think it's actually, it might potentially, from what it sounds like, I think he's trying to be a realist maybe and think I probably am going to play. Realistically, he might get through the first 2-3 rounds. But he's probably thinking I can, in that space of time, I can probably play 1 or 2 events and potentially win them, get more match practice under my belt. And then, you know, I know he played in the French Open last year. So maybe he's looking towards that. But it's interesting, I guess. I guess it's whatever he's comfortable with, isn't it? And as a younger player, as you said, he's got so many years ahead. So
yeah,
I don't think it's a huge deal. In terms of the draw, then, so the draw's out, and there's a few interesting matchups. So the first one actually is a Britain matchup, which is Dan Evans versus Cameron Norrie, and they're playing each other in the first round. That's a very, very good matchup in terms of, I think, just styles of play, and also they're pretty evenly matched, I would say. What do you think about that matchup? I'm not sure, actually. I'll have a look.
I actually think Corey beat him in the Battle of Brits recently. I think they played each other, but I'm not sure if that was counted as an official head-to-head. But I mean, yeah, I do like Dan Evans' game. You know, all court, single hand, backhand, and Corey's just a counter puncher, grinder. So different styles. So it'll be a good matchup in styles.
They've never played each other. They've never, as in apart from obviously the Battle of the Britons, they've never played each other on a competitive match. That's going to be interesting.
So there you go. So it didn't count as a head-to-head. So maybe that gives Corey an advantage. Maybe not. Best of 5. I still think like Dan has now, he's firmly put himself as the best of the Brits. He's the top Brit, isn't he? You know, so I think he's still separated himself. So going on past form, I would certainly go Dan Evans to win. But you know, given the recent form and Norrie beating him, yeah, I mean that'll be a good match to watch actually. So we look forward to watching it.
Yeah, 100%. I think it's going to be it's going to be an intriguing matchup, isn't it? And I think as a Brit, you're probably hoping that they don't draw each other in the first round so they can both progress.
Yeah,
but, which is a bit disappointing, but it is what it is, I guess, isn't it? There's a few other interesting ones. So I think the biggest thing for me actually is Novak Djokovic and Dominic Thiem are in the same half of the draw. So which means that they could potentially meet in the semis. But he's actually, his first round is against Jeremy Chardy, who's not, I mean, he's no monkey. That's not an easy first round. What do you think?
It's not an easy first round, but I would, let me put it this way. Australian Open is like Wimbledon is Roger's home, and actually Novak's done really well, and French Open is Rafa's home. Well, I think the Australian Open is Novak's home. And I think, you know, he's still going to be, you know, give everything the favourite. For me, still the out-and-out favourite, given his past record. He likes the conditions, he likes the surface, he likes the environment, the heat. He's very well prepared. He's fit. So he's still, for me, the favourite. So I think Chardy, might trouble him for a bit, but I don't think he'll outlast him. So I think Novak's still the strong favorite to win the thing. But I think this is the year, because it's still a very uncertain year with COVID, that the new guys like Dominic has made an impact with winning the US Open. I think the new guys could come forward and take a couple of events. So it just, so it's one of those things. So I am looking forward to it. I feel it is a bit more open. I feel like the tour is opening up more year by year as the legends are aging a little. It's giving the other guys who are now beating them in lesser tournaments or best of 3 tournaments an opportunity to try and test themselves at the best of 5, which is the real test.
Yeah,
so
100%.
So I think as a result, I think Novak, favorite, but I think there's going to be a several list of people who are going to be, up there in contention.
Yeah, I agree. And I think I'm just looking through the draw now. There's an absolute crackers here, which I need to get your opinion on. But first of all, Cheam versus Kukushkin. I think Kukushkin is a decent player.
Dangerous, flashy. Troubles the best sometimes, but I mean, I still think Cheam's got too much.
Yeah. I think I was a little bit alarmed by his first ATP Cup match where he lost pretty convincingly, and then the second one though he came back kind of with vengeance a little bit. There's a couple of crackers here. So Dimitrov versus Marian Cilic.
Oof.
That is a that's a pick'em. What do you think of that?
Well, both of them are, how can I put it? I mean, talented, super talented, but I think they're low in confidence. I mean, Cilic, I saw lose a match, I think, to Jeremy Chardy recently when he had several match points, and I mean, just a couple of days ago, 3 or 4 days ago. And I think Cilic can, even when he's in the ascendancy, can have a few bad games or lose his momentum and confidence, and for Grigor too. So I think they're both similar in mentality. I think they're both very talented. I mean, obviously, Marian has won the US Open, so he's a Grand Slam champ. So he's got that over Grigor. I don't know the head-to-head. I'm not sure about the head-to-head. Be a very good match to watch. I think Grigor's got to the semi before, but then Marian's got to the final. So probably, I'd hedge my bet, but I'd probably go Marian in 5 sets maybe. But I don't know the head-to-head.
Yeah, that could be a cracker. So it's so he's actually in front in the head-to-head, Cilic 4-2, and although just looking at so most of them were on hard court. Yeah, so actually the one that wasn't on hard court, Dimitrov won. So I think.
And where was that on?
That was in Roland Garros.
Okay.
So at the French in 2019. So to be fair, they haven't played each other in 2 years, so it should be interesting to see how that goes. Another one which is, I think, is a quality matchup is Shapovalov versus Yannick Sinner.
Oh, I didn't know. Oh, just see, that's the next gen stuff. Oh well, that's the one I'm going to be watching.
That's a really brutal draw for both of them, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, Yannick Sinner suddenly in the last year or two has really shot up. I love his game. I love his mentality. It's a clean, striking, offensive player. And I think, as is Denis Shapovalov, one-handed, attacking, super attacking, flashy, wants to take cuts at the ball. I think it's going to be a great match to watch, really. I think, maybe given the recent, I don't know who's seeded. I think, so
Shapovalov is, so he's number 11. Yannick Sinner is actually not seeded. Yeah.
Okay, but yeah, that's unlucky for Yannick. I think, is that because they've only got top 16 teams now? Yeah,
I think it's
that's
only the
why.
Top, 16. No, sorry, no, it's not. It's there's 20. No, there are still 30, but he's not in the top 30. Yannick Sinner. Yeah, well, not for the Aussie Open anyway. He's not seeded, but he's probably in and thereabouts. I'd assume, isn't he? He must be.
I don't know his ranking as such, but he was doing well, but back end of last year. But that's going to be about to watch.
That's going to be a crack. And as you said, yeah, so he's ranked 36, so he just missed out.
Got it.
He's quality though. I mean, it'll be interesting to see how he does on the hard because he clearly did quite well at the French Open. So it'll be interesting to see how he does on the hard now.
Yes.
Another one is Nishikori versus Corinna Buster.
Oh, good match. Good match. My thoughts on that are I'm not sure about Nishikori's injury, or is he coming back because he's been constantly injured actually recently, and he's been fighting a lot of injuries. And Corinna Buster has been doing quite well. He's been a dark horse, hasn't he? He's been doing well in the Grand Slam. He's been beating some players. So, didn't Corinna Buster beat Djokovic?
Yeah, he did. That was the infamous one where he was in front. He was in front. I think it was a set and a break up. I think.
Yes.
Yeah.
So yeah, but yeah, I think that'd be a good match to watch. And I'd probably just, given the recent form, maybe edge it to Corinna Buster.
Yeah, there's a few more which I don't want to go into too much detail in, but there's a few. I mean, Popitzel versus Medvedev will be. I think that'll be quite a decent matchup. Tsitsipas versus Gilles Simon is another one.
Yeah.
I mean, it's interesting to see. Obviously, I think Tsitsipas and Medvedev, Zverev as well. Everyone's going to be looking at to see how they do. Fognini versus Paul Herbert's quite good, and Kevin Anderson versus Berrettini. There's some really, really good ones in here.
But some good ones.
The biggest one actually for me in terms of playing wise actually is, what do you think of Humbert, the French player Humbert? Because there's been a lot of hype around him.
Yeah.
What's your thoughts about the way he plays and potentially how well he can do in this tournament and I guess going forward in this 2021?
I've seen him play live at Wimbledon. I've seen him. He's a skillful player, talented, creative, just a lot of feel, good hands. So I think he's got that French flair. So yeah, I think, and again, he's someone who's going under the radar and is improving these next gen players. Not sure about his big weapons. That'd be my thing. Is I don't say for longevity or for in terms of winning majors. I'm not sure if he's got a big enough weapon, but a good, solid player.
Interesting to see. There's people like Bernard Tomic is back. Obviously, we're going to see Kyrgios is going to be playing.
Yeah.
I mean, I think if you had to pick a dark horse, so someone who's maybe not obvious that you think can progress well or get to the latter stages of the tournament, who are you picking?
Ooh, dark horse. Who's going to do? That's a funny one. Tough one. It's all about momentum and the start of the year, especially COVID. Sometimes people get in a roll. It's always a good. Australian Open throws up some curveballs with people doing well because they just start hot. That's a good one. It's a good question. Who do I think could be a dark horse to get to the latter end? I'd like to say, my head says no, but my heart says, maybe he could do it. Not that I'm a massive fan of his, but I'm a fan of his talent. Is Nick Kyrgios? But he's not. I mean,
Benny will love you saying that. Benny loves him.
No one would ever, expect him potentially to win it. But he can go far in any slam. If he puts it together. I just think it's discipline, his choice of shot selection, which he plays with talent, he plays with emotion. So if he can get all those things together and harness that, he can put something where I think he could do damage and beat the top guys. Other than that, I don't really see anyone coming through. I'm just trying to.
Yeah, so I'm just looking actually at the draw. So if he gets through, he's facing a qualifier. So you'd expect him to get through that. He'll most likely face Humbert in the second round, and potentially he could face Cheam in the third round. But the one thing I'd say about Kyrgios, though, is I think I agree with you. Is I think everyone knows that he's super talented, and I think he's one of those players that if he can just click it all together and get it into gear for a few matches, and it is 2 weeks, he could go really, really far. And I think I feel like he's one of those players that hasn't quite clicked with him completely yet as a player. You know, I find this in all sports actually that some players they're doing quite well, but there's a certain defining moment where it all clicks into place and they think, okay, I'm comfortable in my own game, or I know what I need to do, and they've got like a set defined like path of the way that they want to play. Like they know exactly this is the way I want to play. This is how I should be approaching the game. And I don't feel like it's quite happened with him yet. And I think it's quite evident because he's a very bits and piece player, I think.
And he relies on his talent.
Yeah.
Really, really huge on his explosive weapons, his serve, which is one of the best in the game. And his creation, his feel, without really what I call getting stuck in, and that's my worry is that he reminds me a bit like Monfils with the more attacking shots, just the discipline, the desire to do the play the sensible shot and the right shot, which maybe goes against the grain of these maverick players who like to entertain. So I think what distracts him is the external things in the game. And I think, really, and I don't think, if you tell me, he hasn't made it click, I'd say yes, mentally he hasn't. And subsequently his game isn't always there. So, and against the top players, they're zoned in all of the time. And what Nick reminds me of, like, when he gets emotional, when he wants to fight, he'll do it. He'll peak, he'll drop, he'll go up and down mentally in a match. And these top players just don't go down. So it just relies on him keeping that mental toughness or somehow just playing lights out tennis where he can keep it going and trouble the guys. I think if he can win, do I think he can beat any of the top players? Yeah, I do. Do I think he can win 7 best of 5 set matches? Not sure about that, but I think he can go deep. So yeah, be interesting. But yeah, all good.
What do you think about Rafa Nadal? He's got this back injury, this persistent back injury, which made him miss the ATP Cup tournament, and now it looks like he's potentially going to be in doubt. He's still in the draw, so he hasn't pulled out yet anyway. What do you think? Are we going to see him in there? And if we do, what do you think his chances are going to be like?
I still think Rafa's the best. If he's fit, he's up there as a contender. He's just one of the best competitor out there, mentally. So if he's fit, he'll play, and if he'll play, he's dangerous. If he gets if he gets going, he's going to be dangerous. So if he gets momentum, I think because of the season and the start of the season and the quarantining, it's not been ideal. People haven't had, because they've been quarantining in the rooms, and he is getting older. So these things aren't surprising. So if he can play, I think he's got a good chance of getting to the latter end of the tournament. I don't know if you'll be able to tell me if Medvedev is in his, because that's going to be the tough one, because Medvedev is someone who I see really doing damage, who I think can beat the top players now, and isn't frightened and is ready to perform in a Grand Slam stage. He got to the semis of the US Open. I think for me, he was the best player at the end of the year. He played very well. So I don't know how Rafa's half is and who he's playing, but I still do think he's going to get through the few rounds easily.
Yeah, I agree. I think Rafa. I don't know. I have a bad feeling he might pull out, and I really don't want him to. But I feel like he's one of those. Yeah. He's one of those players that if he feels like he's not 100%, he'll just say, I'm not going to play because I don't feel like I can win it. And I feel like he's quite realistic with how his body's feeling. But I'm hoping he doesn't.
Yeah, I haven't heard that he's going to pull out, but it's not ideal. But it's a 2-week event. It could be a stiffness. So, fingers crossed he can play.
100%. And you touched upon Djokovic and how this really is pretty much his home ground, if you want to put it like that, in a football analogy. What do you think then? Is he going in as an overwhelming favourite into this?
I'd say so. I'd be just going to look at the record. So I'd say he is favourite. And then I think young guns and Rafa, personally. So in that ilk, I mean, you could argue maybe Rafa, but I would say Medvedev has a real shot. And it'd be nice to see someone different win it, but they've got to be good enough to do it. They're going to earn it, so it'll be interesting.
100%. I'm personally, I'm a big fan of Cheam, so interesting to see how he does here. But I think, do you think potentially because of the situation with the quarantine and players not being able to, train or go outside as much as possible, do you think potentially we might see more injuries as well early doors and people potentially retiring because of it?
That's a good shout. I mean, I think, fingers crossed that doesn't happen, but I could see that happening. Just the whole stress on your body. You've been in a long flight, you've been stuck in a hotel for 2 weeks, and then you've admittedly done some limited practice. So it's unusual. So I wouldn't be surprised if there are some shocks actually early on this year, early on, just because of the uncertainty of the event. I think it's going to be an interesting one.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's going to be interesting to see how it goes, as you said, because of all the restrictions, but it'll be nice to see a crowd hopefully in there as well.
Yeah.
I just want to touch upon in the women's game, who's your pick to win in the women's game? Because I think it's a lot more open.
I was thinking of that too. And if I had a crystal ball or an almanac to find out, it's one that, and I could put some money on it because I think it's so open that you have no idea, admittedly there's a few ladies who could win it. But the ladies tour is really an exceptionally open event. So it'd be interesting. I don't know. The answer to the question is, I think anyone who strings it together. So who's showing form? That's the thing. The question is who's showing form. I think Osaka's always had I rate Osaka. Naomi Osaka. She's got a big game, puts it together. She'll do damage. Kvitova, another great player, but is on her A game is one of the best to watch, but a B game can let her down. There's so many good girls like Muguruza again, but she's up and down. There's some, I just don't know who's going to put it together. And then there's Barty, but she's better on clay. And can she deal with the expectations of the Australian crowd? That's a tough one. And who's the lady who won it last year? It was American. Name eludes me. She's got a chance. But I don't know. I'm really not sure about Serena as well. I think it's going to be mighty tough for Serena to win another one.
Yeah. What about some of the names like Andreescu, who's just come out from injury and she's won a Grand Slam? And then she got injured and she's coming back. And there's all these players like there's
who's the French and the French lady, the Polish.
I can never pronounce the name properly. It's
Swiatek.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, she's a French Open winner as well. So there's a lot.
You've had so many new
champions.
Players.
Yeah.
So you could pick from, you would never have picked Andreescu and Swiatek, but they did, and they played exceptionally well. So I again, throw the form books out. I think it's open. So I don't know the answer to your question. So it's not like the men's. Well, if you remember 5 years ago, or 10 years ago, it was the top four getting into the final. The men were so consistent.
Yeah.
The women's, and Serena was winning a lot. But now I think the ladies' game's changed a bit. It's just so much more open.
Yeah.
And no one's really able to really take the ball by the horns and dominate you. No one's got that aura in the locker room for ladies. And I think because dare I say it, Serena's past her best, probably. she's lost a bit of her aura. She's a legend, but I think players are less frightened of playing her now than they would be 5 years ago. But yeah, that's it.
No, I agree. I think it's so open, isn't it? It's so open, and like you've got, I think we didn't even mention like Halep, who's I think she's number one.
Yeah,
you've got Pliskova even.
Pliskova. Who never does well that? Yeah, Sabalenka.
Yeah.
I mean, Halep's got a chance, big chance.
Yeah, I think she's definitely got a chance. Yeah.
Pliskova doesn't really do well traditionally at Grand Slams. So yeah, if I was to pick, I'd go maybe Osaka or Halep.
Okay. Yeah, I think that's pretty. Osaka is, I think she's definitely one of the stronger players, isn't she, on the hard, and it'll be interesting to see how the women's game develops, because I feel like, as you said, in the men's game, we've had the big four or whatever, and big three even, and now I guess, and they've dominated it for so long, and they showed the list of champions for the last 10 years, and apart from, I can name them on one hand, because really you've got Wawrinka, Cilic, Del Potro, and Cheam, and I'm sure I haven't missed anyone out, and that's four people, right? And then obviously you've got Murray as well, but I think he was part of that big four because he won so many.
Yeah, and if you go Murray and Wawrinka, who won three, who managed to get three each.
Yeah, exactly.
Then between that, it's been Federer, Nadal, and Djokovic.
And it's just absolutely. It's been going on for so long, and maybe we've been a bit spoiled a little bit. But I think what it's also meant is that the younger players. Sometimes I think to myself, maybe the men's game is so strong at the moment because of those three, and then the women's game isn't as strong as maybe it used to be. But then I actually think to myself, it's probably just because those three guys have been so incredible that then the younger guys coming through haven't maybe been able to develop as much, if that makes sense. Because yes, they've played them, but they've been getting knocked out earlier in tournaments as well. Whereas in the women's game, they've had more opportunity, the youngsters, to come through and win. Like you see people like Swiatek, as you said, or Osaka winning tournaments as teenagers, right? What's your view on that in terms of players developing in both? Because both the women's and the men's games are very different points, aren't they?
I think the transition between a junior lady girl to a ladies senior ladies tournament is not as big. The transition is they're playing pretty big and junior level. The tempo. I mean, yes. But I think they all play similarly. And when they walk onto a court, the juniors onto a senior match, I think they're in the groove. I think in the men's game, it's a big transition for physicality. Just the physicality alone is just that. And then the mentality, those two things just really separate the boys from the men. And I think that really sort of segregates what the men's game is much harder, and I think it's becoming harder anyway. So players are peaking later. So it's unusual now to see a Boris Becker, Michael Chang, a Rafa Nadal. Those guys anyway were, if you recall, Boris was a big guy, a massive guy, 17, big unit. So, and even Rafa was, so they developed as men. So you almost need to have, if a junior is going to have to make it, they're going to have to be of that ilk, because exceptionally, rounded game as well. So yeah, I think that's the thing. That's the difference. I think the transition is much harder from the boys' game to the men's game, to the girls' game, to the ladies' game.
Okay, that's really interesting, actually, that you say that. It's so funny because we're talking about there's so many different players in the women's game, and like I completely forgot about Barty, Kenin. Like there's so many. Sakari as well.
That's the one who won. Sorry.
Kenin, Sakari as well. There's loads. But before we wrap up, then I want to get your opinion on a few of the women, just a couple of the women's matchups, and also because there's a couple of Brits in there. We've got Heather Watson and also Katie Bolters in there. Obviously, Laura Robson is still injured, so she's not.
Mhm.
She hasn't been on tour for quite a bit of time, which is disappointing. She had another hip surgery, I think. So
Yeah, she has.
she's the same age as me, so that's why I kind of follow her quite closely, because we're the same age, and I just think, oh, it's really disappointing. Like, it would be killing me inside. So hopefully we see her back soon. But Heather Watson's got, so it's not Pliskova, her twin sister is her twin sister she's playing. So she's identical twin. So Heather Watson's playing her. How far do you think realistically Heather Watson can get in this tournament? Because I felt like she had that. She had match points. I remember her having match points against Serena at Wimbledon, and it didn't happen. And to me, it feels like if she'd won that match, I feel like if she'd won that match, would have been her defining moment. Because even if she got knocked out in the next round, she would have thought to herself, "I can beat the best." So what do you think about, I guess, how she's going to do in this tournament, and maybe, I guess, the rest of the year as well?
I think she's done well recently. I mean, she had a spell where she was out of the top 100. She lost her form, but she's regained that. She's back in the top 100. I don't know her ranking now, but she's really improved that. I think she's won some WTAs or done well. So I think with Heather, she's a great fighter. She's got a good set of wheels. She runs and she tracks the ball well. She doesn't have big weapons, so she uses her wheels, just her movement around the court, and scrambling ability to get the ball, deep and make it difficult for opponents. I mean, so I think, and as a consequence, it wears you out, it wears you down. She can definitely win a few, and she's supremely fit. But I almost think she's a perennial sort of, if second, third round, if she should be happy to get to that. I think if she can get to the second week, that'd be great. But I mean, it's not something. I think you look back at her career, it's not something that she often does. So just getting round by round, I think, is what she needs to do, and get some wins and momentum together, and then she can build on that, and hopefully she can get to the second week of the tournament.
Yeah, I agree. I think so. She's won 4 singles titles actually, and she's ranked 50 at the moment, but she's got a high of 38. So I think she'll, as you said, she'll be happy to get. She'll be, I think, really happy to get to the second week. But I think she needs to string together some performances and get some momentum. I think, isn't it? I feel like that's always such a big thing in tennis.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm just looking through. Azarenka is another one I completely forgot about her. What about? Yeah. Sorry, I missed out the British women's number one in Johanna Konta.
Well, she's got a totally different game to Heather.
What do you think? How do you think she's going to do?
I think because of her game style, when she's on, I mean, you're talking about defining moments. She's got the lateral stages of slams and just missed out. She's got a big game, but for her, it's stringing together in a different way to Heather. If she puts it together, she's definitely got the potential. She know now. Here's a person who can get the second week, and legitimately, and even dare I say, there was one time they were talking about her winning a slam.
Yeah, because she got to the semis of Wimbledon, didn't she?
And the French Open,
Yeah.
But that pressure, I'm not, she's and she just lost narrowly to either the winners or whatnot. So again, if she strings it together and gets some confidence back, she can make it to the second week, and who knows?
Yeah, I agree. I think it's
she's got a big game. She goes for it. She takes it on. She plays a fearless way. She plays a lot like the other modern big hitting girls.
I feel like she's one of those players that, and you don't see many around, but I feel like, maybe correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like her backhand is more solid than her forehand.
Yeah,
I feel like her forehand's more prone to errors, and it's maybe not as big. But her backhand's really, really, really solid. Her two-hander
and attacking. Yeah. I think it's a combination of on the ladies' tour, the backswings can go a little bit bigger.
It's almost a bit like Murray, though, right? I mean, Murray had a similar thing where his backhand was huge at times, but his forehand was.
Murray's backhand is technically just a beautiful shot.
Yeah.
Much more so than his forehand for me. but his backhand is just beautiful. One of the great backhands of the modern age, really, for me. But you wouldn't rank that his forehand as the preeminent shot in the modern game. And maybe that's what it lets him down a bit. But I would say, I think Konta's because she attacks it. She's compact. She's more compact with the swing, and she less goes wrong. So that's quite common. So he's good on both wings. She goes through the court on both sides. She takes it on the right and just drills the ball. So I love that. Yeah.
We've got the Venus Williams is playing. I can't believe she's still playing. It's incredible. I can't believe she's still playing. But I feel like she just clearly loves the sport. I feel like when she's 40, right? Like you just love to compete and still
she's
going.
Got a big game, keeps her fit.
Yeah.
She's done well recently. I think she's playing for the love of it, really, and she doesn't have to prove anything to anyone.
I agree. Okay, so then I'm going to press you for two things. The first thing is then your dark horse in the women's game. Who do you think is potentially going to go further than expected? I mean, there's a lot of players in there potentially that could, and also then after that, your winner as well potentially. Your prediction.
So let's go for dark horse, and because we're on, we just talked about her. Let's go for Konta. I think she can string it together. I do to go well. Like Nick, she can string it. She can cause damage. She can beat the best. Yeah. Whether she's a dark horse or not, I think she's definitely. So I could see her doing it. In terms of winner, I look at again. I was going back to Osaka and Halep as probably my two players who I think, but it's not. They're not what I call strong. I think anyone could win. But if I was going to go with that, I'd go with those two to have an outside chance of have a good chance of winning it.
I guess was it Djokovic, isn't it, in the men's? I think
Djokovic for me. I'm going to go Djokovic, Medvedev.
Okay.
I think Medvedev could be ready.
Yes, it's going to be such a fascinating year. Actually, I feel like last year wasn't quite. We talked about it in the ATP Tour Finals, and I asked, do you think it's a changing of the guard? And you said, I don't think quite yet. And you said, which is right, that these guys need to be performing more consistently. The Tsitsipas's, the Medvedevs, the Zverevs, etc. And I think they need to be getting to the last stages consistently, but also winning slams. And that's the only way that you can do it. Yeah,
this is the test.
Yeah, I agree. And so I think for me, I think my dark horse in the men's game is really difficult. But there's so many different players I think that you can pick. I think let me do my winner first. I think winner actually. I think I'm gonna go pretty left field actually, and I'm gonna go Tsitsipas. And the reason why I think that is because similar to what you're saying about Konta, rather than my dark horse, I think he's my winner, and I just think because I feel like he's going to piece it together actually. In this,
he's got the ability. He's got the ability.
Yeah, he's definitely got the ability. I mean, he's probably more likely to be the dark horse than anything. But I think I feel like he's got the ability to do it. And I just have a feeling that Djokovic, I don't feel like he's waning, but I feel like before he was able to get around the court and he could outlast any player on the tour. But I feel like now that he's gotten older, even Rafa, exactly. And as he's gotten older, though, I feel like he doesn't quite have people like Cheam. They can stick with him or they can outlast him, and he wants to shorten the points. And I feel like there will be one player potentially that will do it, and it might be someone like Cheam. And then I guess dark horse. I don't know. There's so many. I'm going to go with. I'm going to go a bit left field here. I'm going to go with Olga Asiliam.
Okay.
I like his game. As a dark horse. I just think I want to see him get.
Yeah, actually, I would have used. Yeah, he'd be another dark horse.
Yeah, just to the second week, maybe.
100%.
I'm not expecting too much from him, but I think maybe a fourth round, something like that.
I think he's got a chance. He's got a good chance to do well. He's got a great attitude.
Yeah, and in the women's, I think winner is yes, he said it's a pick'em, isn't it? It really is a pick'em. I think Osaka is a strong choice. So I think I tend to agree with you there. But as a dark horse, I don't think she's really a dark horse because she's won tournaments before, but I'm going to go with Azarenka.
Okay, yeah, that's a good one.
Because I don't think there's really much expected of her to get to the latter stages. I think there's probably an expectation of her to get to the second week, but I think she might be quite solid. So we'll see how it goes. But I'm really looking forward to it. Anyway, there's going to be a lot of sport on next week, that's for sure. Not just tennis as well. But
indeed,
I'm looking forward to Australian Open. The time difference I need to sort out to see how I can watch it is going to be crazy, I think, in Australia. So we'll have to see how it goes as well. But yeah, I look forward to it. Is there anything else you want to touch upon before we wrap up?
No, all good. And looking forward to watching it like everyone else and seeing some sun and seeing some spectators. Exactly. It gives us all hope after the winter that we've had.
Yeah.
It gives us some escapism and something 100%. To really look forward to. So, for us all, it gives us a little bit of, hope that we can get to a normal.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. I really want Rafa to win it, but I don't think it's going to happen. If he wins it, I even forgot to mention, if he wins it, he will be, 21. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. 21. So he will be
the all-time leader of and you're going to say he's still favourite with the French Open, but but every year gets a little tougher. He's going to be 35.
Yeah.
And, it's just tougher. So
yeah, 100%.
So we'll see. Yeah, he's got a chance.
Which would be the first time, right? Like he's ever been top of the list.
First time.
It's funny actually. He said they asked him about it, and I think he said, "Look, if I don't play the Australian Open, it's not. Of course, I want to play it, but he said I'm not obsessed by Grand Slams." And I was just thinking to myself, I was like, "That's such a lie." I was like, "That's something that you tell everyone to play it down." But in his head, surely he's thinking to himself, "This is huge. Like if I can do it."
Well, he wants to win. He's the biggest competitor. I mean. With these three, I think you'll end up, regardless. I'm now, of course, I'm a huge Federer fan, but actually, and even if he gets over, but I think it's not now. It's not even about numbers now. You talk about numbers as being prolific and they're the greatest ever. I think those three have separated themselves as being almost equally, and even Djokovic at 17, because on their day against any one of those three, Rafa's clearly the greatest clay court. Yeah, maybe not, and not as dominant on the other surfaces.
Yeah,
so whereas Djokovic has got a very all-round, and as Roger, but they've only won one on France at the French. Winning 13 crowns, the French Open is kind of crazy. It's kind of ridiculous. But all being, if we base it on most Grand Slams won, then you look at that as defining moment of greatness. But actually now, and I've been thinking that for a while now, it's not about numbers anymore. I think those three, it doesn't matter who ends up with the most. I think because they're prolific, and I think Djokovic has still got the head-to-head against over them both. So I think just watch this unfold, watch history unfold, and whatever happens, it's been a pleasure watching these three legends, the greatest ever now, of all time for me, give us so much entertainment. So look, if Rafa breaks it here, if he breaks it at French Open, it'll be great, and I think it will give, certainly I think Djokovic's got the biggest chance of overtaking it all.
Yeah.
For me. Just his longevity, and I think he's a little bit younger, and I feel like he's got a few more years of domination.
Yeah, he's less injury prone as well. I feel like, isn't he? In the way maybe not even the way he plays, but I just feel like he is Mr. Elastic, and you can tell by his body shape, and I feel like he's less prone. But I agree with you. I think all three of them, unless one of them does something spectacular the next year or two, where they go on a run and they win 3-4 Grand Slams in a row, which I can't see happening, then I think, as you said, they'll just be regarded as, there'll always be debates and arguments about who's better than who, no matter who finishes top, I think. And I just think that's what makes them so great, because you don't always have that in certain, especially in one era as well. That's what makes
absolutely.
It so
well, they've all brought the best out of each other. Exactly. We'd be lucky. But it's been great. It's been great.
Cool. On that note, thank you very much, Amit. It's funny that we always we in any tennis conversation, you always come back to the big three. It doesn't matter what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Thank you so
It's still
much
around.
again.
No problem. Thank you. Have a great day.
Yeah, hopefully we'll catch up during the Aussie Open, and
Yes.
hopefully we get some good matches underway.
Indeed. Thank you.
Cool. Thanks, Amit.